market the car back at the auction, and then so whatever mileage is on there, obviously the value may be less, and whatever they don't get or recoup, they have already done the algorithms to turn out that it's 8 cents or 10 cents or 15 cents a mile. So if you turn a lease vehicle in at the end of the term and you're over the mileage, you will be charged for that. But if you know that you drive a car 15, 16,000 miles a year, but you wanted a nicer car for a cheaper payment, reduce your sales tax, which we talked about last week, and some other options, you can simply trade that vehicle in like every other car. For an example, when you come to the dealership, if you were to come to the Toyota dealership and we're going to appraise your car, the salesperson is not trained, nor are the managers, nor do either one of them care if it's a lease or purchase vehicle. They simply get an appraisal form, put the mileage, the VIN, they go out and walk the car, look for dents, dings, scratches, wear and tear on the car, the tires. They drive the car, they check, make sure the air conditioning works, they make sure the car's in good running condition, and then they place a value on that. Now, the reality is if you're trading a lease car or you're trading a purchase car, either way you go, more than likely, unless you put a substantial amount of cash down, you're going to be upside down. But to the dealer or even to you, it's irrelevant. We're going to pay the car off regardless. If we're going to trade with you, we are going to satisfy the loan, lease loan or the purchase loan on that car. So when I say that if you trade the car, it doesn't matter how many miles you have on there, you're not going to get charged a 10 cent or 12 cent a mile penalty. That is true. However, keep in mind, if you do have 20,000 miles a year on your 3-year-old car, 60,000 miles on a 3-year-old car, if you purchased it or you leased it, the value of the car will be less because of the miles. So the negative equity may be greater. Not greater than a lease or greater than a purchase. It's just going to be greater because the value of the car, obviously, you've used it a lot more. So to reiterate, if you lease a vehicle, you never have to worry about a mileage penalty if you trade it, sell it, or buy it. And last week I pointed out, Chip, that I would not recommend someone buying their own lease vehicle, although it would be a great used car to have, because what better used car than buy your own? The problem with buying the car, this is my opinion, take it for what it's worth, you're going to end up paying more for the car than if you would have bought it outright. So if you feel like that, when you first went into a lease, 3 years later you may buy your car, I believe, my opinion is, after seeing numerous deals, you're going to pay more for the car if you lease it and then buy it versus buy it in the beginning and pay a little more up front. I see. Does that make sense?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we covered the 4 options at the end of the lease. The other thing that I wanted to recap that we didn't get into last week that I think is really important, if you lease a vehicle and you're an individual that has the miles under control, okay, and I've leased several cars, me and my wife have, and in those cars, this is before I was a dealer or a general manager even, we've leased several cars, and if you're going to be under the mileage, one of the greatest things about a lease is you can avoid any negative equity. Now, what I mean by that is we all know if you trade a car in, typically there's negative equity because the car is going to depreciate. Well, if you lease a car, stay within the miles, and you elect to turn the vehicle in, and you're within the miles, that's it. It's over. So you're not rolling $3,000 into the next car or $2,500 into the next car. So again, to me, that's another advantage if your driving patterns are suit that. So if you're an individual, you live in Eatonton and you don't go to Atlanta much and you work locally and you think that, hey, listen, I drive 8,000 to 10,000 miles a year pretty easily, and you get a 12,000 mile a year lease, that's a good gamble in my opinion. I think you're going to be in good shape. And if you leased a vehicle and you were done with it and you were fortunate to buy a $20,000 car for $199 a month and you enjoyed the drive and you turn the car in, the lease is over, that's it. You go get another one. You can release another one with no negative equity. You can turn around and maybe purchase a car. It's going to be completely your choice to do so. So was that something you're familiar with as far as the negative equity?
Yes. Well, I've got a question, Louie. What happens, what do most people do out of those 4 things at the end of the lease? What most people do? Trade it?
Yeah. Most people will, and I'll go to myself included, I've leased 4 vehicles before I was ever in a position to be a general manager or a dealer in the car business, and we've traded every single car. So at the end of the day, and the reason why most people trade is because, number one, it's easier to deal with. Nobody wants to go through a scenario or a situation to where at the end of the term, you've got to figure out what you're going to do with this car. That's the scary part about leasing, and that's what I want to dispel about leasing is there's no reason to be fearful. If you know what you have going into the deal, there's no reason to be nervous about that. But to your direct question, Chip, I would say 90% of the people, they trade the car, and then they get into another car. Now, when I look at the people that trade a lease vehicle, I would say 50% of those people trade from one lease to another lease. The other 50% will trade a lease vehicle, and they'll say, hey, I leased it, and now I want to purchase one.
I see.
So you can go either way. You can release another one. You can rebuy another one. Another question that I get often is, listen, if I lease a car from you, but what if I move to Florida? Do I have to bring the car back to you? And the answer is no. You can turn in a lease vehicle anywhere. Any dealer will accept the lease car. So you just want to make sure you have the proper documentation that someone's inspected the car, because what you don't want to have happen is if you turn a lease vehicle in March and they pick up the car in May, let's just say, because sometimes there's some lag time between the lenders picking up the cars, you don't want to be responsible for somebody hitting the door, while the car sat on the lot.
I got you.
So you want to make sure that you get your documentation, you walk around the car, maybe take pictures of the car. We got smartphones, so it's easier now, but you don't have to do the picture thing. There's typically a form in the dealership. You walk around the car, you inspect it together, and you're clear. The dealer knows, and so you got a position, God forbid, something were to happen to the vehicle.
I see. All right.
All right.
Very good. All right, we'll be back with more with Louie from Louie Heron Toyota. It is Super Thursday, the automotive show on the air 3 to 5 every Thursday. Got a